to.
Yeah.
That kind of that's what we do.
Yeah.
Everything shuts down and you watch the game.
Totally.
God.
Totally. Well, welcome to the first edition of the Science of Advertising. Jonathan Rolley here and Dr. Jared. Well, today we're going to talk...
We're going to talk
slowly
and awkwardly.
Slowly and awkwardly. Well, welcome to the first episode of the Science of Advertising with Jonathan Rolley and Dr. Jared. We're here to talk all things Super Bowl, the Mecca of advertising. Big money, big celebrities. It's all on the line, big stakes. So during the Super Bowl, just some quick numbers for you. 54 brands advertising this year, being 2020. They spent a total of $435 million. And for us in Australia, $650 million. A 30-second clip was just shy of 5.6 mil US, or nearly 8.5 Aussie. So this year, interesting to note, long-form commercials, so we're talking 60s, 90s, 120s, featured really heavily. So 24 out of the 59 spots in the game were actually long-form, lasting more than 60 seconds.
And they had to pay double the rate, triple the rate.
Totally. So they used 30 second as pro rata, and they just basically buying 230s or... But it's really interesting because you're seeing the market's really shifting towards short form. So 15 second, even like 6 second format. And that's the media outlets pushing that as well.
Yeah.
Acres is great for them because they can charge premium and it's a short inventory. So, in a 60 second spot, you can sell 10 advertisers rather than 2 advertisers.
But if 2 advertisers are willing to pay the price of 10 advertisers,
totally.
Who am I to say no?
But it's interesting because you go, high stakes, but we need longer form to actually tell our story, connect, engage, everything else. Yeah. Whereas you go, the market, especially digi markets, going, everyone's got shorter attentions. How do we try and cram our message into a 6 second format?
And you wonder too, at those prices, if that's not a move from the big companies to say, well, cool, you're going to sell 150 ads, but if I can buy up a huge chunk of that time, that's 50 ads that my competitors can't buy, that some small company can't sneak in with. So it's probably less advertising on their part, more just making sure no one else is advertising.
Well, it could be that as well. But interesting to note here as well, the biggest category was car manufacturers. So they purchased, if you're looking at all the car brands, it was nearly 20% of all Super Bowl inventory was purchased by the autos. So it's a category that they just go, we must play there.
Yeah.
In terms of production, so this is how much the brands actually spent on producing the ads. So the Brewers of Budweiser, they spent $41 million US producing their ad. So they were the number one, followed by Pepsi coming in at $31 million, again US.
For one ad.
This is producing, so talent, production, pulling it all together, the creative. Followed by P&G, $30 million. Amazon at 26, all US. So they're spending more on their production and creative. By a considerable factor compared to the inventory.
That is incredible.
So it just goes to show that getting that right is so important. The interesting thing about that, we're going to review a few ads today and dig into the detail, why they're great, why they're not, and what worked, what didn't. And most of the brands I just called out then don't actually feature in our list, and especially with the media pundits and the experts, they're not talking about most of those brands, bar Amazon. Amazon did make the list. So really interesting. It's not how much you spend, it's what you do with the idea.
So you've got a $40 million commercial that no one referenced afterwards.
Didn't feature in sort of the top 10 that most people were talking about,
Yes.
But having said that, this is kind of the Mecca as a creative director. It's kind of the ultimate. You've got, somewhat unlimited budgets to go to town with. So what do you want to do with unlimited budgets? How do I get the biggest talent? How do I get the celebrities I've always wanted to work with? How do I create a crazy idea and pull it together?
And how do I make, just a generic car driving down a road for $40 million? Hey, there's corruption everywhere. Some of those directors are just going,
I see where you're going with that. All right, the game itself pulled $99.9 million from linear TV and just 2.6 from streaming. So this is an event that everyone tunes in live. So they're watching linear, so just over 2.5% thereabouts. So this actually made it the second least watched Super Bowl in the last decade.
Really?
Yeah. So
99 million is a drop.
A drop.
What was its highest, do you know?
Highest sits close to 120, but average is about 110. So it's about 10% short, but more to do, not so much with the event itself. You've got more who is actually featuring in the game.
Yeah, that's it. When you take out the big teams, the Tom Brady's, the Steelers,
Totally. And we've got the Chiefs. So,
Ooh, that's a big ticket team right there, the Chiefs. To be fair, they do have the best football player right now in their quarterback, the best guy on the field all around. But really, it's a smaller market team. It's not an LA team. It's not an East Coast team. Sorry,
it's not. And you just want to talk sports, don't you?
I do. Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers, man. What a year! What a year,
mate. How would you sum up the year then?
For the Niners or for the Chiefs?
For the Niners.
Totally unexpectedly awesome. Like, we all knew they were going to be good, but we didn't think they'd be that good. Because they had done their rebuild, and they kind of did that Moneyball thing where they changed up the way they managed their team and rebrand. They changed their story, their team story, and how they work with their players. And those either are like huge hits or huge misses. And theirs was a huge hit. So everyone kind of assumed they were going to win. But to be fair, I had the Chiefs.
You had the Chiefs.
The Chiefs have a huge chip on their shoulder, but the Niners, they weren't ready for it yet. They'll be there next year. They're going to be just as good as they were this year. And now that they've got it under their belt, they're going to probably walk away with it. So
you actually picked the Chiefs?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I did. So I was the one guy in my family to actually make money this year on the Super Bowl.
Unlike last year?
Unlike the last 20 years? This is my second Super Bowl hit since 2000.
Yeah, I know. This is interesting because it's like, watch Jared, because whatever he puts money on, do the opposite.
Put money on the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So in this one instance, I was totally right, and I'm gonna talk this up the rest of the year.
Totally, you own it. Being a mad Patriots fan.
Are you a Pats fan? No, I'm a Steelers fan.
Oh, I thought you were Patriots.
From Pittsburgh. I'm born in Pittsburgh.
There you go. So in terms of total audience, 102 mil total. So it is about a 10% drop. Now, ads. Here's what we're talking about today. So we've pulled a collection of the most talked about ads, or what most of the creative directors have deemed to be the best ads thereabouts. That's what we're really going to dig in today, in terms of looking at them, what's good about them, what's not so good, or just even the principles that sit behind them, and especially why I'm so grateful that you're actually here, especially with your background looking at, the science of memory, how it forms, what that looks like, looking at the principles of what these creatives are looking to try and do and how that correlates to memory. And for us, we see a direct correlation with memory to performance. Ultimately, ads are here to sell stuff.
Boom.
If we're not going to be selling stuff, there's no point. You're just creating a bit of art for the piece of art's sake. Do you know what I mean? And potentially quite a few of these, not so much here today, but a lot of ads do fall in that category of people trying to fulfill their artistic endeavor.
Which is lovely, but that's not the primary purpose of an ad.
I know, but if you want to be an artist, go and buy an easel and paint a picture. Yeah. Don't waste tens of millions of dollars of a brand, fulfilling your artistic potential there. So, ads is what we're here to talk about, so big budgets, big brands, there's kind of unlimited scope. But the really interesting thing, as soon as you have that, most creative directors go to the fallback. So what's the fallback? Fallback is very much using celebrity. How do I buy the biggest brands that money can get and leverage that talent? And they're also looking at, a bit of nostalgia, whether it's movies, whether it's, something that's there, and try and leverage that as well. Yeah. So this is kind of the ads that all the way through ad school as a young creative, you've got these visions of shooting big ads, big budgets. This is kind of your own Super Bowl of advertising. Yeah. You've made it. So the scope is somewhat unlimited. So it's all the big names and big ideas. Anyone famous from anywhere sort of features. But
there was a nice cross-section of celebrity endorsement this year.
Mate, huge. But that was kind of the focus that everyone went to. The fallback was celebrity. And you see it year in, year out that it's celebrity.
I remember it was about 10, 15 years ago, they went through a non-celebrity phase during the Super Bowl ads where they were going through that really... You remember when music went from like pop music into kind of indie, weird, and everyone just had to be strange? I remember like a chunk of time where the ads were all just strange. Like there was one, my all-time favorite Super Bowl. I couldn't even tell you what the heck this is for, but it was the back of a moving van, and it had two old dudes just clapping totally out of beat, and a monkey in between them dancing, and that was 30 seconds. And the end of the ad said, "We just wasted $2 million. What are you doing with your money?" And then that passed as a viable Super Bowl ad that year. So I'm glad we've kind of swung out of that just be weird for weird's sake. But the celebrity thing, you're walking a fine line when you play that game.
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting to talk about. So the first one that we're going to look at today is Snickers. So Snickers has been a brand that's heavily featured Super Bowl for many, many years, and this was kind of a new approach for them. So if we have a look at Snickers and where they're at.
Grown men ride scooters.
Everyone's texting dirty pics.
Babies named after produce.
Hi, Kale.
Robocalls up in the mix.
The world is out of sorts. We need to fix it quicker. We're gonna fix the world by feeding it Snickers.
So we're feeding the world of Snickers?
Yep.
Will it work?
Milk keeps getting reinvented.
Autocorrect is so demented.
Politics just makes us sick. Ew, yeah.
The surveillance state's got brand new tricks.
No, we don't.
Seriously.
We're not spying.
The world is out of sorts. So let's we need to fix it quicker. We're gonna fix the world by feeding it Snickers. We're digging a huge hole. It's a huge hole. Dropping it right in. Drop it. It's a dumb thing to do. So dumb if it works, we all win.
Hey guys, we're at the hole.
Oh, the Snickers hole. It's working.
I dig because my son still lives with us. My 32-year-old part-time DJ son.
Digging a huge hole.
Was that Luis Guzman who came in at the end of that? So there was a celebrity endorsement. It just happened to be Luis Guzman. Ooh, I didn't. The first time I watched it, I didn't notice that Luis Guzman was at the end of it.
It's 100% him.
So that is celebrity endorsement.
Celebrity endorsement.
Even he acknowledges celebrity endorsement? Question mark. Okay, I'll take it.
Love it. So what was your outtake from that?
So you can tell what they're doing with this, right? They're taking the piss from the old Coca-Cola commercial, which we took a look up was 1971. I thought it was after that, but 1971 had the Coke commercial.
Yeah.
And the entire point of that, it was riding off the back of the McDonald's 2 all-beef patty special sauce. Let's get a song. So let's start here. You get a jingle that features the name of your product. People start singing that jingle. And what happens is, with memory, step number 1, if you want a deep, lasting, accessible memory, it's all about what we call recall. How are you pulling that information up? I can shove it into your brain all day, but if you start thinking about it, if you start accessing it yourself, that's when the memory gets deep. So the whole point of a jingle is to get somebody to sing your song for you, and now they're stuck with your brand, your idea in their head. So go back to do we have the Coca-Cola ad?
Yeah, we do.
So let's take just a quick look at that one.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves.
I like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. I like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony. Perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing. What the world wants today is the real thing. What the world wants today is the real thing.
So what's cool with that one is you have to put yourself kind of in the mindset. And here what they're doing is they're building their brand, their name into a jingle that somebody else, we still sing to this day. And they're appealing to the new market, which is the 70s market. Everyone's anti-war. They're saying, yeah, here we're with you.
So you're talking the Coke ad now?
Coke ad, yes.
Okay.
So they're saying our generation, the upcoming generation is like this. Let's speak to them. Let's have them sing this song. Wonderful. Cut to the Snickers ad. Let's take a piss on something from 50 years ago, which already is a bit of a gamble because I guarantee you half the people they're talking to have no clue that that was a Coca-Cola ad. So they don't quite get the connection. An old fogey like us, we're like, yeah, I've seen that. I know why you're doing this. But to make so they've got their song, they've got their jingle, everything seems to be working well. The one thing that's going to be a bit of an issue with this one, I actually love the jingle, singing the Snickers in it, fantastic. They're talking about things that people love, activating memories. Oh, we've all had the selfie problem, we've all had the Alexa problem, we get this. Problem is today's generation is all about hit and miss, move on to the next thing. Get a cool meme, get a really cool, something that's funny, and 24 hours later, never talk about it again. So by appealing to that generation with this, they're almost saying, please forget that we exist. Yeah, the world sucks, you remember this? Yeah, meme generation, ha 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 ha. Guarantee you 72 hours later, no kid's going to be singing that song because it taps into the wrong aspects of our generation, the negative aspects, the things we don't want to talk about, the things we dislike.
Whereas that's interesting because you're saying that this taps into a lot of the negative things that we don't like about this generation. Whereas you go back to the Coke ad, which I think was 51, was it? Thereabouts.
50 years ago?
Yeah, 50 years ago. That was nearly the opposite. That was kind of like a movement for good in a way.
The peaceful stuff. Let's say Snickers makes a song that says, let's help the environment, let's make things better. That's when the young generation will say, okay, I'm going to sing that song. Now, is it manipulative? Probably. Is it still advertising? Yes. But at least what you're doing then is you've got this positive movement, which is going to lead the next generation in that way to keep using it. But what they do instead is they just do here's all the things you hate. We all giggle, go, I do hate those things. On to the next meme. What else is funny about the world? It's Neil Postman used to call it the and now this moment, where they get you to enjoy something and giggle and laugh, and now this, and then just change topics, and you'll never think about this again. And that's what I worry they're hitting with.
Got it.
Does that kind of make sense?
I totally get it. For me, like I totally agree with you. There's probably some parts that I like about it. I think they've used, call it prediction break or humor. Yeah. There's a lot of things, especially as you watch it the first time, that hit you that you're just not expecting. Do you know what I mean? You're just kind of sitting there like, what's coming next? What's coming next? It's just this constant sort of, it just keeps you on the edge of your seat a little bit, just constantly interrupts your pattern. So for me, it really held attention all the way through, with a bit of humor, and, you did have some celebrity endorsement there as well, or celebrity anchor that we like to call it, but humor featured pretty much throughout, but it had that theme, and it also had, call it acoustic coding, so it had song. For me, I'm actually curious in terms of when you talk jingle or song, how much frequency do you need for someone to actually hear a song before they start repeating it?
I would love to say that there's a hard answer on that, but it's going to be different across the board. It has to do, A, with catchiness, and B, with, we'll say, context within which you're playing with it. So you could have the best song in the world, but if it doesn't have what we'll call a cadence, this is going to sound very weird, so bear with me. So your brain has natural frequencies that it works on. One of those is typically called a theta frequency. That's the frequency of thought, of change, of action, of I'm doing something different up here. I'm building a new memory. I'm tweaking an old memory. Any song that kind of hits that theta frequency will start to naturally bounce in your head, and then you'll be more inclined to start singing that because it's a frequency my brain already sits at, and we call it entrainment. I start to think in the beat of your song, and off we go. If a song doesn't hit a natural brain rhythm, you can't get that entrainment. So step one, you've got to have the right, I'll sing a song more often if it's got that catchy beat. What's a catchy beat? Something that is entrained with a natural pattern in my brain. But then you've got a context. I'll more apt to sing a song if I'm with my friends and it's something that I like and somebody gave it to me and it's at a club and all my kids are singing it and, oh, it's so hip, because now it's cultural, now it's contextual. I have a reason for it.
Yeah.
I'm less likely to sing a song if the world around me isn't singing it. So this is why pop songs kind of make it big. So the Coke thing, oddly enough, go even before Coke, if we're just talking jingles to that McDonald's one, the whole reason they had that jingle for the Quarter Pounder was the commercial said, now go to your local McDonald's, sing them this song, and if you sing it right, you're going to get a free Coke. Have a good time. So they forced you to sing it to get a free product. And everyone wants a free product to see if it's going to work, and that's why everyone starts singing it. They had a reason. They had a context to sing it. Snickers, I think we had a context to sing it if we're watching it during the Super Bowl. But you also got to remember, most of us are going to be pretty drunk. So we'll sing it during the Super Bowl, but will anyone sing it the next day? I don't know. Yeah. So how long do they sustain that commercial in play after the Super Bowl to keep us kind of humming it and then turning it into a longer form joke?
Totally. Like, I think this is an interesting follow-up from Snickers. Their previous ads that have featured heavily, humor, But that was kind of running with the context when you're not hungry. Do you know what I mean? You know, you're not you when you're hungry. Do you know?
So, so is this their first switch from that?
So so they've moved from you're not you when you're hungry, which they've been running for quite some time, which was very successful, you know, got a lot of attention, but really simple idea, just different context, you know, and this is kind of an interesting transition from that because now it's kind of like the world's not you, you know, because of what we've done to it in a way, so we need to feed it as Snickers.
Oh, so that's the longbow.
Do you know? So this is kind of like, but unless you look at it in a lot of detail, you kind of like, oh, do I join the dots or not?
Until you said that, I didn't. I get it. I get the dots now, but I hadn't.
Yeah, right. Okay,
I thought that this was a pivot, but this is just an extension of their you're not yourself.
So there you go. You were going back to this is going back 50 years ago, whereas they might have leveraged part of that, but it might be part of their evolution of going, you're not you when you're hungry. The world's not itself at the moment. We need to feed it Snickers and hopefully all our problems go away.
Why didn't they just maintain the same system that they have that everyone knows is about to happen? You're not yourself. Here's something being weird. We say you're not yourself. Eat a Snickers. Here, now you're getting better. By wrapping it in a song, I totally missed that. Why didn't they just use their same language, their same brand?
Well, it's interesting because they've kind of moved away from that brand or that identity to try and create and evolve, but it may be just too much of a stretch, and it's its own entity rather than evolution, and people may not join the dots, which means the heritage of the old stuff is now gone.
So I'd be curious. So this was about a couple weeks ago that this comes out. Are they sticking on this train? Do you know? Or
we don't know because we probably won't really know till next year's Super Bowl, that comes out, but it could be an extension to this or they'll transition away. Like it'll be interesting to go, is this the theme they're going to run with now or is this just a one-off?
And then circle back to what we know works.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, the Snickers hole, again, I actually quite like the execution. I think there's a lot there.
Yeah.
It's a bit bizarre, a bit kooky, but the more you watch it, the more detail it is, you can see they've really sort of thought through it.
Yeah.
But interesting execution. The next one, also for me, this was a 2-minute ad.
Which one? Not the Snickers one.
Yeah.
The next one.
The Snickers was a 2-minute song. So a 2-minute execution. So this is one of the longer forms that we've seen, in Super Bowl. So super expensive in terms of inventory. But they kind of needed that to take you on the journey and tell you the story and get you there as well.
Yep.
But I think they just stuffed it full with so much of, modern culture or what's there and the piss take.
Yeah.
I think they just got so wrapped up in how much of a piss take can we make on everything in modern society. And they just wanted to put more and more and more in it.
Yeah.
And it may have lost that really sort of simple idea, which became a bit complex because you got a new song that you got to introduce. You've got to try and follow the theme. Yeah. At the end of it, it's not really till the end that, you're feeding the world a giant Snickers bar that it kind of tries to pull it all together.
So it can be itself again. Ooh, so you're right. I do like the long form. I like the fact that they gave us enough of a song that we can sing it, that we can jingle it. They've got verses. So maybe we go back, maybe we write our own verses was the idea. But I don't know if it's ever going to work.
I know. The question is, can you sing the song now?
All I know is feed the world a Snickers. There it is. Boom.
Tick. Winning.
Boom. It had the right cadence, by the way. The pacing of it was the same reason they did the pacing on the Coke commercial. It was the exact same pacing, which is your theta rhythm, about 50 beats on the interval of 50 beats per minute.
So when you're looking at jingles, it's important that you're looking at that cadence.
Yep.
Otherwise, it just won't encode to memory.
That's why some of them stick so damn, even whether you want them to or not. It has nothing to do with the song itself. It's just that it hits that right bum, 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 that syncopation.
So Baby Shark.
Which one was Baby Shark? That's funny.
But anyway, next up, we've got Cheetos. So Cheetos, for me, this actually comes in quite highly.
Yep.
I really like this execution for several reasons, but let's have a look at Cheetos now.
Cheetos has popcorn now?
Hey, I'm gonna need you to... Never mind.
You can't touch this.
Help!
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
Get it off.
Nope.
I trust you.
Why? Hammer time. I touched it. New Cheetos popcorn. It's a Cheetos thing.
All right, Cheetos. For me, there's a lot to like about it. First and foremost, it really plays on nostalgia. You know, it's a song that, you know, for some of us who really grew up with, you know, very sticky in memory as well. And we know, and we've already got an affinity to it. So we like it. And they're leveraging off that asset as well as MC Hammer. Like, who doesn't love MC Hammer? Especially those pants. Well, debatable. But really, really simple is what I love about it. And it's very well executed all the way through. And it goes through several different scenes. So it reinforces it 3-4 times. One thing I really love about it, you can see that they've owned some of their own characteristics. You eat Cheetos, you've got Cheetos on your hands. You can't deny it. Do you know what I mean? But what they've done is just made that as part of their, call it a trademark branded asset, whatever it is. Can't touch this, do you know? And you can see kids sitting there and mums asking them, just going, can you get up and do your homework? And can't touch this, do you know what I mean? Can you help? You know, can't touch this, do you know what I mean? And the kids will then really leverage that saying, attach it to Cheetos, do you know what I mean? And that becomes a bit of fun. And once you start doing that, like we were just talking about, that then becomes a habit, a trait, a memory.
And that's pretty badass. So if you think about the fingered thing, so what we'll call that is an experiential memory. Yeah. That's not a name of a brand. That's not the colors of a brand. That's not the logo of a brand. That's an experience you have if you've ever engaged with that brand. And the experience now has become the brand. Anyone who has ever eaten Cheetos immediately recognizes that. So when you see the orange hands, the first thing you do is you start pulling up your own memories of Cheetos. And now we're in. That was such a smart move on their part to say, okay, we're going to use the one thing everyone has felt, has literally memories of in their own life. And we're going to start using that as our hook.
Totally. And I think going one step beyond that, I think how clever it actually is you've got a lot of people that have nostalgia with MC Hammer and that song that have eaten Cheetos when they were younger, but they may not have touched a pack in 20 years. They may go out and experience Cheetos again just to relive it or experience. And that particular, you know, I just want a pack of Cheetos now, but then they'll introduce it to the kids that may not also have had Cheetos before as well. So it's interesting in terms of the play of how it all could come together.
And you can only play the nostalgia card with memories we have.
Correct.
And there are very few brands that I can think of or products that would have that easy of a hook that anyone who's ever touched our product will know exactly what we're talking about here. And you're absolutely right. It then brings me back to my own memories. I'm like, oh, damn, those are pretty damn good. The one thing I will say the idea that it's Cheetos popcorn might not come out. That might take a couple more iterations for me to recognize popcorn.
See, that's also fascinating you say that, because for me, I've seen this now, I think, third time.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was for a new product. Do you know, I just got Cheetos and I got hands, and that was my takeaway.
Boom.
You know, it was Cheeto hands, can't touch this. Do you know, and that was my...
To see that it's actually because they have a new kind of, but I don't think they care.
No, they don't care at all. I think it was an excuse to get a budget for a new product, but then to reinforce the Cheetos name. Well, actually, I think the genius in it, it's not about the new product. It's how do we build Cheetos again.
Bring the memories back online. And you're right. And what they've done too is wonderfully is that they've tied the MC Hammer with the Cheetos. So the Cheetos, they didn't have to work too hard for. They have their simple thing. MC Hammer, we've got a very cadence heavy, very simple song that's very nostalgic to us. We have these two completely unrelated memory networks that they've now tied together, and they're going to force us to start playing with it. And just like you said with kids, it's going to happen, and watch what happens. Now we've got a larger memory network for this. Anytime you hear the song, you're thinking of that. They have themselves a new branding slogan. Can't touch that. Now I've got something I do with their product. It's me playing the joke myself. That's never a bad thing. That was tight.
I like it. You know, there's a lot to like in there. So next up, we have Jeep. So let's have a quick look at Jeep. They're creative for Super Bowl.
Okay, campers, rise and shine. It's Groundhog Day. And don't forget your booties, because it's cold out there today.
Phil? Hey, Phil.
No, not you.
It's me, man. Ryerson!
Okay, little fella. Good job. That's different. Good job.
Hey! He got the groundhog!
Phil?
Hey, you're gonna freeze to death. Who cares? See you tomorrow. Don't say your hair's too long. Safety first.
He's got the groundhog, Phil!
It's not personal. It's just a game. Not a bad day, huh? I don't know where we parked. I was following you.
All right, so that was Jeep. Jared, curious to get your thoughts.
I love that commercial. Yes. Here's what they've done very well with this. So we were talking earlier about memory networks. So the way memory works is you don't just have a memory for a thing. Every memory we have is tied to a bunch of other memories we call associations. So you can consider memory like a giant web. We call it a schemata. And once you tickle one node on that web, you get what's called spreading activation. You just get these ripples that go out and they start activating all these sub-side memories that go, oh, hey, what about that? So when I say the word mother, you don't just think of mother. You start thinking of maybe the movie Mother, maybe that time your mom did that thing. Now I'm thinking about jelly beans when she gave me jelly. And you just start spreading your memory out. What this ad does so well is it starts by hitting a major node they know you're going to have, that nostalgia node. If you've ever seen Groundhog Day, it's a film in the U.S. that's on every year, Groundhog Day. So I know you've seen it. Now you have this rippling effect. Anytime you think of Groundhog Day, you'll think about where you watched it, your first Thanksgiving, you have all these other memories. What Jeep then does is they sneak in and they put their brand right next to the major node, right next to the primary node. So anytime you see Groundhog Day in the future, one of the very first things you're going to think about is that Jeep commercial. Shit. Whether you want to or not, it's in there. They've tied a memory that you love, a film that you love, a character that you love, so closely now to a product that anytime you see it, and you're going to see it at least once a year in the US, one of the first things you're going to think about is, remember when he did that ad for Jeep about this movie? So I think by tying their brand to a memory they know you have, they've essentially hijacked your memory network. And that's a very powerful thing. One of the best ways I ever saw this done was back in Pittsburgh, they had an ad which says, do you like your pet? We like pets too here. Come show us your favorite picture of your pet and we'll give you 50% off your blinds and windows. Cool. So you can assume, sweet, 15% off. But what happens is I take my one favorite memory and I go give it to them. And now every time I look at that picture of my dog, which I look at a lot, I'm also going to, by spreading activation, I don't have a choice. One of the first things that's going to pop up with it is the association of blinds and windows. I mean, God, it's been 20 years and I still remember that thing.
Wow.
So they took a memory, activated it. Notice they didn't even show Jeep for about the first 30 seconds. They activated your memory, got you sitting in it, and then they snuck themselves in, popped themselves in, and now you're sorry, they win.
Well, the interesting thing about you loving this ad and looking at some numbers behind it, you know, some real data.
Yeah.
This actually really over-indexed and actually took out #1 spot for the ad received the most online mentions. So this got 47,000 online mentions in terms of online chat.
Yeah.
Which out of the entire Super Bowl chat, so Super Bowl and talking ads and everything else, that was about 6% of entire Super Bowl chat.
Was talking about this commercial.
Was talking about this commercial. You know, so huge in many different respects. But I also think, you know, in terms of leveraging Bill Murray, Groundhog Day, all the rest of it, yes, it really taps in nostalgia. But it has its own mini story in there. You know, it's kind of got Bill, it has that 20 seconds sort of setting the stage, taps in nostalgia, but here's the platform. Yeah. Then it goes into, let's introduce Jeep Rubicon. You know, very different. But for me, it also the product preference. So this is when we're looking at simulation, you know, of you driving a car. It's got the Rubicon in action. Yeah. You know, it's in its native environment, which is out in the outdoors. You know, it's sliding around corners. It's going up mountains. You know, so for me, you also tie those memories of the Jeep, you know, performing incredibly well in these, you know, somewhat not inviting climates, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just tying those memories together. So for me, not only is it tapped into the nostalgia and it's tying that memory to Groundhog Day, the movie, you're also seeing the Jeep in, you know, performing incredibly well. And because we can't tell the difference between watching, you know, a piece of video and having our own experience, and that's product preference in a lot of products, that's where they do incredibly well. You know, I think it's very clever on many different fronts. So for me, like, this really has leveraged celebrity, it's leveraged nostalgia, it's leveraged product preference. Everything's been tied in beautifully and it's been executed incredibly well.
Yeah. And you're right. The simulation, I hadn't even thought about that with the Jeep moving, we're mirroring that. We're mimicking that in our own brain. So that's us driving. And that last shot where the groundhog, the air is in the groundhog's hair, we're feeling that. We're feeling that relaxation. We're feeling that cool air. We're feeling that freshness coming into our, and lo and behold, I will remember that little groundhog doing that little thing because I just lived it myself. So that was I thought that was, so that got 6% of everything.
Yeah, 6% of online chat. So for me, it's like, it's a gem of an idea. Like it's a brilliant idea and it's been executed incredibly well. So for me, like.
And to get Bill Murray to do it, that was probably their crown and glory. To get that guy out of his room to come do something, good on you.
Totally agree. All right, next up we have Jason Momoa. So let's have a look at Jason in action.
What does home mean to me? It's my sanctuary. It's the one place I can let my guard down. It's where I can just kick back and be totally comfortable in my own skin. You know what I'm saying? Rocket Mortgage understands that home is where I can be myself. And that feels pretty darn good. Oh.
Home is where you feel the most comfortable, and Rocket Mortgage helps you feel comfortable financing that home with a personalized and convenient experience centered around you. Rocket Mortgage. Push button, get mortgage.
You got this.
Take it.
Okay, all right. Good job.
All right, so this is a very fascinating one for me because this was the one many ad experts actually said this was the number one, trumps everything, this killed it. Do you know, where I would agree in some aspects, but I'd strongly disagree in others.
So what are you thinking?
So for me, you know, Jason is absolutely the hero all the way through. This is, I think, probably the third or fourth time I've seen it now. And for me, it was interesting on the way here this morning, like I was driving and I was going through the ad. And for me, all I could remember is Jason pulling off his arms, you know, and having these skinny, twiggy arms, which is interesting because that was obviously something that I recalled heavily. Yeah. And then the second part was him pulling off his hair, do you know? And that's all I could recall. But for the life of me, I spent the next 3 or 4 minutes trying to recall what was the brand. And I couldn't, for the life of me, remember who the brand was. Yeah. You know, so for me, this is kind of the great case of great ad, can't remember who for. Yeah. You know, so for me, that was my big takeaway. So I understand why some ad guys really love it because it's, you know, interesting, it's really unique, it definitely funny. Gets your attention, it's funny. But for me, all it does is really build Jason's profile more than it does build Rocket Mortgages. You know, again, I've got to look to see who it is. Yep. You know, it builds Rocket Mortgages. And the interesting thing, there was actually 2 ads in the sequence. There was a longer form, which told the story. And then the second one, which is Jason trying to lift a barbell, you know, take it, to have Rocket Mortgage. So I think as they were actually creating this, they knew that the tie between Rocket Mortgage and Jason wasn't very strong. They're just like, we actually need to show a really trimmed down version of this to help ensure that the bridge from the creative execution to the brand's there, but it didn't land.
It never hits.
You know, it was only in that one that I picked up that Jason says Rocket Mortgage in the actual ad itself.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
You didn't even catch that? Well, there you go.
You're spot. Watching it, this looks more like an advertisement for Jason Momoa to help his brand. Now, when I go see him in a movie, I'll think about this commercial. I'll say, hey, he's actually a funny dude in real life. He takes a piss. I like him even more than I did before.
He's more likable than, yeah.
The one thing I'm not going to think about is Rocket Mortgage. So go back to the idea of memories being vast networks, schema. The idea of having, say, a star like him would be that when I see the star, the next node that activates is your product, which means you have to very clearly link that star to your product, which I guess with mortgage would be hard because I don't know. It's not like Cheetos. I can't show him eating it. It's not like a Jeep. I can't show him driving it. So you're already at a disadvantage. I don't know how you do that. But if you don't add that last node in, everyone will leave saying that was fun, that was exciting, I loved it, I giggled, I laughed. What was the product for? Oh, I didn't even notice that was a commercial for something. And that's where you go back to what I was talking about with the guys clapping in the back of the truck with the monkey jumping up and down. Huge memory. They never tied their node to it, which means somebody, whoever works with Jason Momoa next, all they have to do is put him in an ad, really heavily tie their brand to him, and they can piggyback off of this ad without ever having to invest any money in it. Because when they think about him, they'll think about the next product. I remember that funny Super Bowl ad? It must have been for Cheetos. Wherever he goes next, they're just going to reap the benefits of this one.
Yeah, interesting. Because the other thing with this, you could nearly substitute Jason with like a Hemsworth, or the ad doesn't need a character. Whereas if you look at Jeep, Bill Murray's the only one that can deliver that. Do you know what I mean? So it's Bill Murray or Groundhog Day associated to Jeep.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you got Jason now that is kind of left this void of someone else could potentially piggyback and leverage that as an asset. That's a really interesting point. But yeah, just to jump back on that, for me, it's you tell this story all the way through. You've got huge levels of tension. There's high levels of memory, but you're relying on the last 3 seconds with a title card and a logo on it to do all the heavy lifting of trying to get your brand associated to what you've seen in the previous minute, where it's nearly like the story's closed and then you've stuck a brand at the end of it.
Yep.
Do you know? And you could have stuck any brand there. Do you know? You really could have, to try and leverage that story.
It's the credits to a movie. At that point, people tune out. So if your credits aren't in your movie, no one will know who the director was. Sorry.
And I think this is kind of the challenge with creative directors. They don't want the brand to potentially ruin the story or the bit of art that they're creating. Do you know what I mean? And for me, it's got a bit of that feel that they want to do this interesting piece. They've got Jason. They've got the big budget. Let's do it. They've got the special effects. They've got the animation. It's all there. It's all the toys they've always wanted.
Yeah.
Do you know? Whereas the brand itself, how do we fit it in to tell the story or create the bit of art? So that's kind of art-led rather than brand first.
I did when I was, before I got into neuroscience, I was back in film school, and we used to do this all the time where we'd pitch an idea, and our teacher would always say, that's a cool idea. Now what's your movie? And that's what this feels like. Like you would say something, oh, what if a strong dude was actually really skinny at home? That's a cool idea. Now what's your movie? And what he was saying was, what is your bigger purpose? And if it's not matching that purpose, a cool idea is meaningless. So here they had a cool idea, but the purpose has to be to tie it to the brand, and they never got to that next level. So my film teacher would have said, cool idea, what's your movie?
Yeah, perfect. All right, next up we've got Amazon before Alexa. Let's take a quick look.
Baby! Coming!
Alexa, turn down the thermostat.
Okay, turning down thermostat.
Ready. Huh, here we go. What do you think people did before Alexa?
Alexa, turn the temperature down 2 degrees.
Thank you, dear.
Alexa, tell me a joke.
Jokes. God, you think I know loads? Look at me.
Next.
News! Get your news here!
Alex, what's today's news?
Doesn't matter. It's all fake.
Al, play that song I like. Al, next song.
Alexei, tell us something interesting. Okay. The Earth is flat, and a witch stole his pants.
Alexa, miss, send this message to Prince Constantine.
Alicia, remind me to delete those tapes.
Yes, Mr. President. I ain't deleting.
Yeah, I don't know what people did before Alexa.
Alexa, play my favorite song.
All right, Amazon before Alexa. So this actually had one of the higher production values.
Yeah.
So this cost them $26 million US to shoot and produce. You know, it kind of is like its own mini feature film and all these different sets. There was not much expense spared to ensure that, you know, it came across as a real high-end production.
Yeah.
But can get your thoughts from a memory perspective, performance perspective. What are you saying?
See, I got to separate the science from my personal taste now in this ad, because personally, Alexa and all those things, hate them. They're totally useless, which I think they know, which is why they have to make this ad. This ad is all about trying to convince you that, oh, all the things we can do are really important, like play a song. Because pressing a button on the damn CD player was so hard. Hey, Alexa, tell me the news. Yeah, because opening the newspaper was so hard. They have a product that really has no purpose. And so what they're trying to do is convince you that it's a meaningful, purposeful product. So personal side, I just hate this shit. Science side, it's not a bad ad. The brand name is in it throughout it. The brand name is the feature character in it. The only through line through every little sub-story is Alexa. And you don't leave that commercial not knowing what it was for. You don't leave that commercial not understanding what Alexa does. You leave that commercial saying Alexa in your head. I've just said it about 18 times. They win this game. So in terms of a commercial for sticking power, and with the celebrity endorsements too, the celebrity, what do we say?
Celebrity anchor.
With the celebrity anchor at the front end, people love Ellen in the U.S. Like that's like getting Oprah these days. So you've got one, she says the brand name over and over and over again. She gets to do her thing. Personally, I hate it, the product, but the ad is an effective ad. I just wish it was for something a little more important than a little box that nobody needs.
Yeah, it's interesting because you got the celebrity anchor that really is endorsing the product itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For Ellen, both in two different environments, so she's got at home, before, and then the car. The clever thing, I think, yes, they've used Alexa throughout all the characters and all the different mini scenes or the mini movies. But also looking at the tie they've got through, so the song, the guy sitting in the cart, the horse and cart, play me your favourite song. Do you know what I mean? And then that comes up. So there's a lot of little ties, and if you're looking at the schematic of memory, it just reinforces it several times. So it's very clever. You've got celebrity, you've kind of got that little song, you've got Alexa all the way through that tie it through. So really nice execution. Interesting, just having a look at some numbers again. This had 39,000 social mentions specifically for Alan and Portia. So this did quite well in terms of consumer sentiment. The other thing I really liked about this is the ad was designed to sell the product. It's designed...
Not the celebrities. It was for the product.
Like it didn't hero the celebrities like you see Jason, you know? It heroes the product and what it can do for you. So I think from a performance and, ads are there to sell. If it's not there to sell, there's no point of having the ad.
And you think too, you made a very good point too so we think in narrative, right? You can't not piece things together in a cause and effect temporal chain. What this does is by having the little segments go through time, we get the narrative. We're starting way back and we're stepping up generation by generation, getting a little closer to today until we're back to today. And who's the hero? What's the climax? What's the thing that solves all the problems? Is Alexa. And you can't not. A good thing about a narrative is what happens is when you're in a narrative, you start making predictions. And when you make predictions as to where we're going to go next, you're already forming deeper memories for it. You've built the train tracks. They did a really good job with that. It wasn't just a kooky bit. It was a bunch of kooky bits tied together in a temporal sequence that allowed me to tell a story.
Yeah, and a simple execution as well. Like you can see the simple idea all the way through. So from one tech giant to the other, let's shoot to Google.
Google, okay. The opposite side.
Hey Google, show me photos of me and Loretta. Remember? Loretta hated my mustache. Remember? Loretta loved going to Alaska and scallops. Show me photos from our anniversary. Remember, she always snorted when she laughed. Play our favorite movie. Remember, I'm the luckiest man in the world. Come on, boy.
All right. Loretta from Google. Very interesting. So for me, like looking at this ad compared to everything else that was going live, everything else that was going live was big celebrities, big budgets. For me, this nearly like went in the other direction. It's how do we tell a really, beautiful, emotive, heartwarming story, but the production cost of that is really limited. Like you could have done that on the cheap, but it was executed very, very well.
Yeah.
Even for me, it had some nice points of like simulation right at the start of the ad. It was just pulling you into a search in Google, which we've all done a million times, and then leverage that into the story, which was really quite heartwarming. But yeah, did you have any views on this particular?
I think this is similar to the last one in maybe because of my dislike for the product. I find it very hard, but this is the same thing as Alexa. Hey, Alexa, show me a picture. Because it's so goddamn hard to go pick up that photo book that I know you have as a 70-year-old man. Okay. Anyway, so they're just meaningless products. But here's what they've done incredibly well. They told a story. They told a narrative, beginning, middle, end. They went from young to marriage through up to now. They hinted at the fact that this guy's getting Alzheimer's. They didn't tell you that, but I think we all put the pieces
100%.
together. They pulled at your heartstrings. I don't know that there's a dry eye. Here's a funny thing. So if you go to the U.S. and you watch the Super Bowl in Vegas, you go to casinos. A lot of people go out to bars. Most people assume an ad like that will just drop like a rock because we're all having fun, we're all drinking, everyone's rowdy, and so the funny ads, we're all having a good time. Believe it or not, that comes on. Watch when about 20% of the people in the room start crying. Those actually hit really well during Super Bowls because for whatever reason, when we're in that mode, we're very open. I wish I could explain it to you, but I was at...
Can I just interject there? Because I might have some thoughts. Like this is kind of for me, like if you're just exposed to really loud music, which is like celebrities, big productions, crazy, everything's coming at you, a lot of prediction break, everything's moving quite fast. And then all of a sudden, the room goes quiet.
Guess what people are going to pay attention to? The one quiet voice in a sea of screamers is the one that everyone grabs attention because it's unexpected, it's unrecognizable, and all of a sudden I have to see what just happened. Why is this going on? And people will connect with it. And anytime, you know as well as anyone else does, emotions are very heavily connected to memory. The more emotional I feel towards something, the more personal I make it, the more likely I am to recall it, the more likely I am to have a deep memory for it and use it. So they used that perfectly. There's nothing about this ad that wasn't completely depressing and completely sad. The two things that just irked me about it are, one, you run a very fine line. When you go to the emotion of suffering and Alzheimer's and death, which is a very personal emotion, and then you tie that to a product, if you do that insensitively, you run the risk of pissing people off. I don't think they did it. I think they did it fine. I think they did it comfortably, calmly enough. They weren't blatant about it. So I don't think they'll make people mad. It made me mad just because I just don't like the product itself.
Yeah.
But I think that's so if you're looking at this thinking, oh, let's do something like this, be very careful.
But again, you could have the same idea, but it's in the execution.
Exactly.
The devil's in the detail.
Yeah.
But for me, the other thing as well, like this is kind of a major institution. It's a corporation. It's a bit of technology.
Yeah.
But they've made you feel something for a bit of technology. Like they've made it feel more human. So I think in essence, rather than being too clever, funny celebrities trying to endorse it, for something that's can be very cold, how do you feel something for a bit of technology? So I think that was kind of the clever thing within the execution as well.
You could see where it could go haywire. If you do something like that with a big blast, like, let Google help you remember things before you die. Google, your memory center. You could see how if you same exact thing, just did it slightly, people would dislike your product because of that. They'd say, do not hijack my emotions in that way. Do not. So they did that well. The big thing, and let's go science now, because now I'm going to put on my scientist hat. This is what pisses me off. What's the very first words in that ad? And by the way, I know they did this on purpose. I know this wasn't an accident. How does that ad start?
It's Google.
So you have your search bar. What does he type into the search bar?
Great question. I couldn't tell you. Hang on.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Good. How to Not Forget.
Wow.
Interestingly, you forgot it, but here's the big joke. So the whole ad and the whole sentimentality, and it's going to hit the majority of people very well, is to say you can use this tool to help you when things go awry. Ideally, I guess the underlying message was, when you get Alzheimer's, here, we can help you with all this stuff. Great. All the research in the world, and this is why they did this, shows that when you use Google and other digital tools to store memories like photos and stuff, you actually forget about them. You remember where to find them, but you forget the information itself. A better way to remember how to not forget is to not use Google. As academics, we've been talking about this for about 5 to 10 years now. They've heard us. They know that we're telling people, students, do not put your things in the cloud. Do not put your things on digital because you will forget them. Keep hard copies. Keep playing with them. That's how you form a deep, lasting memory of it. That's why I say go to the picture book. There's no way that guy forgets he has a picture book because he's activated it, played with it so often. As soon as you put information online, what you do is you change your memory from the bit of information to the location where that information is stored online. So when they come out and say how not to forget, there will be 1% of the population who does research like I do, who immediately go, how not to forget, you do not use Google. But 99% of the world will go, how not to forget, I guess Google is good for memory.
Google's taking the association, they take up 99% of the market share. And
now people are led to believe that this is a good tool for memory, when in actuality, Google and the internet and digital tech and cell phones are horrible for memory. I mean, it just absolutely filth. So that's another personal resonance with it.
I can see your passion for technology just shining through. Yeah.
I want you to remember your life. I don't want you to remember where to find your life. That's my soapbox. I'm out.
Mic drop, out of here. One last one before we get out of here today. So what we're going to have a look at is Hulu. So Hulu featured Tom Brady. Let's have a quick look at what they put together.
They say all good things must come to an end. That the best just know when to walk away. So to my teammates, my family, and most of all, my fans, you deserve to hear this from me. Hulu doesn't just have live sports. According to the script they just gave me, Hulu also has your favorite cable channels plus the greatest shows, movies, and originals of all time. So it's time to say goodbye to TV as you know it. But me? I'm not going anywhere.
Money.
All right, over to the American. Hulu.
Here's why, okay, love this ad, but it's not the best ad. It's not going to work the way Hulu wants it to. But that's kind of what Hulu's been doing. So if you've been paying attention to Hulu over the last couple of probably 2 years now, all of their ads are very rich athletes saying almost nothing about Hulu, really selling themselves, and then at the end, Hulu comes in with a money song. That's been kind of their thing, which oddly enough, if you live in the US where those Hulu ads are everywhere, we're getting used to it. We're getting it. So what did Hulu do here? So in terms of memory, so if you're an Australian and you don't really know who Tom Brady is and you don't really know this pattern of what Hulu's been doing, you watch this commercial and you think, who gives a rat's ass? Like, who's this guy? Why does this matter? In the US, all throughout this last year, Tom Brady, who has been the greatest quarterback of all time, easy, has looked like shit. And so all we've been doing on talk radio and sports radio and TV is talking about he's probably going to retire at the end of this year, or it's coming close. So what does this ad do? It starts with the retirement. Now, who would care about Tom Brady retiring? Any American watching the Super Bowl. You're guaranteed the audience knows who this person is, gives a shit about this person, knows the sport. This plays into the American sports Super Bowl market so perfectly that when he comes out and says, I got to tell you guys something, I promise you, 80% of people are thinking, this is it. This is the retirement. He's going to say I'm out. And he's just waiting to make money to do it. Good on him, but here it is. Prediction break. We're all expecting him to say I'm going to retire, and instead he goes, Hulu does other stuff. Now what you're going to do is, the reason why it's not the best, most effective ad is a lot of people are at that moment are going to get pissed and going to be like, oh, screw you, bro, I'm out. And they're not going to pay attention to the fact that it's Hulu. which actually kind of plays into the Hulu brand the way they've been doing it. I don't know why they've been doing it that way. So it might not be the best memory formation, but in terms of knowing your audience and getting them something that's going to get them to actually stop and pay attention to what's happening, it was a great prediction break. It was an attention grabber.
See, I think this is now fascinating because you've got Native American that has seen Hulu. Do you know what I mean? And you're familiar with the brand somewhat.
Yep.
You know, you've got an Australian very familiar with Tom Brady. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Except not as familiar with Hulu. Like I familiar with the brand, haven't seen a lot of their executions.
Yeah.
So for me, when I watched this was a really curious thing because I just go, Tom Brady, I'm just like, whoa, okay, Tom Brady's on screen during Super Bowl. Like, amazing. What do you got? Smart, leveraging assets that's in the right arena, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that. And then he takes you through the little journey and then you go, whack, prediction break. Do you know? I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
Do you know? So my takeaway, my whole thing that I got from this was a Tom Brady ad.
Yep.
And he's not going anywhere.
And he ain't retiring.
He ain't retiring. He's not going anywhere. And for me, at the end of it, I'm just like, oh, what was that ad again? Like, all I got was Tom Brady, I'm not going anywhere. Like, that's what I walked away with. And it wasn't a Hulu execution. But that's the context of the environment. Whereas you just go, okay, if you've seen this execution now, like a dozen times with different superstar sporting talent, you can start drawing the thread through all of it and you just go Hulu. And to the point where you start seeing A-grade talent.
Automatically, if it's sports and it's a prediction break, it's going to be a Hulu ad.
Totally. And I think that's where, they can only do it because they've got massive budgets.
Yeah.
So they can buy the inventory, they can buy the talent, and they can pull it all together. So they can kind of buy their market in a pseudo-clever execution.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have the budget to have this execution on multiple different areas and you only had one shot at it with a Tom Brady or anything like that, for me, it will fall on its face every time. But
no, spot on. If this wasn't supported by, I can see, just like you, if you don't know the supporting 2-year journey to this ad, it's trash.
Totally. That's
There's
why
nothing.
it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, whereas now you've given it context, I'm like, I can really see how it works now.
And you're right, it's a money thing because what they've done is Hulu, they have bus stop ads, they have train ads, and all the ads are Hulu with a really big celebrity athlete. And all the ads up until this one, the reason why he's flipped it is all the ads have been Hulu does live sports. So they get a big athlete because everyone knew Hulu is kind of a Netflix. They do TV. They started getting live sports. So what is their advertising? Get a big star, Floyd Mayweather, throwing money around saying, Hulu just told me they do live sports. Boom. So what does this ad do? It's the first one where he goes, Hulu does more than live sports. Hulu also does TV. So it's been a journey, and I could see in the US, I think most people would have gotten it. But yeah, if you're a new company coming into the game, you have a chance to get Tom Brady, you don't waste it on that.
Just segue on that a little bit as well, because we work with a lot of global brands, and they might have started in the US, and they've got 3, 4, 5 years of history of building the brand through a certain execution. And then they'll enter Australia, do you know, and they'll grab their last assets from the US that are working, and they'll grab the assets that were working in the US, so their most recent assets. But because Australia, the market, has no context of the previous conversations that have been held and the investment that's gone in to build them to that particular point, do you know, it's not as effective. So it's really interesting when you're looking at a market, like how do you actually build it up so you can help be consistent and get it to that point, not just take shortcuts. So I think, you know, just understanding the context, it's really important.
Yeah. And you're right, and you earn the right to take shortcuts with time. So which means that's a good point. If you go to a brand new market, a brand new country, you start from scratch. You go back to marketing 101, which is what is my product? How do I get the memory formation for it? How do I get the attention on it? And how do I get people thinking about it? After years, like Bunnings now, here, you go throw a Bunnings ad up in the US, no one will get what the hell is going on. They won't understand why they should care. They get the product. I mean, they're simple enough. They'll be like, cool, I can go get a rake. Wonderful. But they've earned the right now, Bunnings, to do whatever the hell they want because the memory is so deep. This is what Coke does. And this Hulu's kind of new to the game, but Coke has been around so long, they can do anything because they have 50 years of context to leverage it off of. So it really doesn't matter if they sink or swim or fly or fail. Everyone around the world knows there. Hulu, no one knows who they are here, so what? or knows their branding strategy here. So what happens?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Just about to come to a wrap, but I'm really curious for you. I would love to know, number one, who took it out for you, who gets the votes, and then maybe some honorable mentions.
Okay. I'm going to go of ours. I got to go Jeep. The Bill Murray one is the best one. And as much as I hate to say it, God, the Alexa one was a good ad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my 2 stars. First star of the game, Jeep. Second star of the game, Alexa ad. Last star of the game. How do you say worst star of the game?
It's the bottom of the ladder.
Oh, the silver spoon, or no, wooden spoon of the day. Which one was it? Moana. That one, Jason Moana.
Rocket.
Momoa. Jason Moana. He's both a kid's film and a superhero. The Jason Momoa one. That one. I think that was a miss.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Jeep, unquestionably for me, best execution, best idea. It pulled it all together. It had simulation. It had celebrity. It had all the ingredients that make a great ad, an effective ad, more so that it will sell product. Remember the Rubicon there.
Yeah.
For me, a close second would actually be Cheetos. In how that integrates into behaviour and real world. And for me, I'd be curious to see if that does take off in terms of having a generation of kids that can't touch this, with Cheetos fingers. So for me, that's a close second. But Dr. Jared, it's been a pleasure.
Hey, wait, what was your wooden spoon?
There's several on here that don't even feature. But if we're just looking at this, my wooden spoon would have to go to Hulu.
Oh, Tom Brady.
But the only reason I say that is from my context.
Fair enough. But that's a good point all in of itself.
So, Dr. Jared, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, mate. Until the next episode of Science of Advertising.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Ciao.